Today I'll be turning this piece of Staghorn Sumac, but I plan on adding a couple little bonus features in here. Sumac has some very open grain and it can be hard to get a nice finish on it. But today I'll show you how I easily fix that with a little sanding trick. So let's get going. Well, this is kind of an unusual piece of wood. It's called Staghorn Sumac. And I turned the other half of this about 2 years ago. And it has beautiful grain in it. It also has something strange going on up and down the center of the tree and around the bark, and that's that white area there, or the lighter colored. I'll tell you about that once I get it mounted in the lathe. I'm just going to make a normal bowl out of this because the grain is so pretty. I think it'll show it off the best. And the bark is kind of fallen off. I don't think it would be as nice as a natural edge. So let me get this all trimmed up and we'll get it mounted in the lathe and we'll get going. I just cut this off the bottom because it kind of had a little rooftop on it. So this substance that was in here was just a thick liquid that was oozing out through the center of all the pieces and through the bark. And my understanding is a lot of people get the wood, I think smaller pieces than what I managed to get here, and boil it. And they boil this out and they make a really strong glue out of it. That's my understanding. I don't know anyone that's done it though. Here's that bark just popping off. So might as well take it off now. I'll be able to find it easier. And that's stuck on there good enough to leave, and we'll just turn it off. So let me get the tailstock up against this and we'll start turning. Okay, I'm going to sharpen up a 5/8 bowl gouge and we'll get going. Turning almost 700 RPM. I'm going to switch to my 1/2 bowl gouge. Okay, I'm going to go with that, and that is really smooth. Now, I'm going to clean this up, and then I got to go in there a little bit because this looks very soft. Okay, I need to flatten this off before I sand because it's got a lot of edges that are not cleaned up. Just going to flatten that top off using this square carbide. Okay, I'm ready to sand this, and We'll start with 80 grit with the lathe turning in reverse at around 400 RPM. And we'll get her sanded up to 400. And then I think I'll put a sanding sealer on it. I've got this sanded to 400, and now I'll put some of the Minwax water-based sanding sealer on it. And I'll just kind of wipe all of the excess off. I'll let this dry, and probably one more coat of the sanding sealer, and then I'll flip it around, do the inside, and we'll put the polycrylic on all at the same time. Oh, that's looking nice there. It's got kind of a green tint to it. Alright. I'll be back just a little bit later and we'll have it flipped around. I have it flipped around. I'll use tailstock support for a while. We'll start with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge and just start working some of the material away. 700 RPM. Check this for cracks, which it does have one here. Maybe I'll have to put some CA in these just so it doesn't come apart. So yes, these here, I'm going to stop for a little while and put CA glue in. I just worked the thin star bond down into those cracks, and it really goes down in quite well. So what I'll do is let all this harden up. I'll take this tape off, and then I'll clean this up, and if it looks good, that's probably fine, because that's about as thin as I want to go. So I'll let that sit for a while and I'll be right back. I think I got these cracks filled up pretty good with CA. I'll go ahead and cut deeper down this wall, and then I'll need to move the tailstock out of the way. About 850 RPM. If I can get the negative rake scraper in there, clean this up, and then we'll move the tailstock back. There, I got my homemade one. It's made from a framing chisel, Buck Brothers. Okay, I think I can get that sanded out of there. So let me get the tailstock out of the way and we'll get a little bit more serious about getting this hollowed out. I'm going to start removing the bulk of this material. There is a couple cracks, and I kind of hope they just disappear. Got 900 RPM. I'm going to switch to my 5/8 bowl gouge. I think that's probably fine now. Okay, that is close. I just sharpened up the 5/8 and a half-inch bowl gouge and my negative rake scraper. I've got this almost to size, and this is here. Just going to clean this up down to there, and we should have it done. Start with the 5/8. Okay, that worked. That worked. That feels smooth, and we're there. Pretty light wood, so I left the bottom more like about 3/8, and the rest of this is about 1/4. Actually, I think I'll just use the negative rake scraper now and clean this up. I got a fresh burr on it. Still doing about 750 RPM. Okay, I think we're ready to sand. Alright, I'll start with 80 grit. I've got the lathe running forward at 400 RPM. Get that dust collector going. I got this all sanded to 400. It looks good. Most of the cracks are filled with CA here. They kind of extend down in there where it didn't get. The grain is somewhat open. And I don't usually do this, but I'm going to do it on this bowl just to kind of show you how I've done it. And what I'll do is I'll wet sand this using the sanding sealer. So let me get a glove on, and I'll be right back and show you how I do it. Alright, so I'm just going to take a brush. I'm going to get this wet everywhere. And I can put an abundance on there. It's going to come off. But I need that to help lube that sandpaper and move the slurry around. Now I've got a piece of, this is actually 320. And this will make a slurry as I sand. And I'll just try to get everywhere, and then we'll go ahead and turn the lathe on when I get rid of most of this. And this works pretty good. I've seen other people do it differently, like the wood whirler will put the sealer on there and take some fine sawdust and then move it around to fill it. I'm sure it works good. I just like doing it this way because I'm getting the wood extra smooth at the same time. Okay, so we're going to turn that on, and then I'll just go like this. Now I want to try to get rid of a lot of the excess now. So I'm just going to let this dry, and then we'll just re-sand it. Yeah, I can see that there's a paste on this that you can see, extra fine. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but there's kind of a brown color on there. I'll be back when it's time to sand this out and finish the bolt. Okay, I don't even think it's been 20 minutes since I did that. I came out here and shut my heater off because it's actually warming up, and that is dry and it's sanding very nice. So I'm going to finish sanding this. I'll put another coat of sanding sealer on it, and then I'll show you how the polycrylic goes on, which is exactly how the sanding sealer goes on. So let me finish sanding this. I'll be right back. Alright, I'll show you how I get the polycrylic on, and I'll probably get 2 or 3 on, but I'll just show you one of them, because it really does look exactly the same. Now this time I'm not really going to soak it up because it's got all the sealer in it. But I'll put it on this way so I can take this cloth and then wipe it in. I'm just trying to wipe off any streaks that are there. And that's it. That's all there is to putting the polycrylic on. I went ahead and used the abrasive paste and polish on this, and it is really a nice finish. I didn't show that because recently I did a complete video on nothing but using abrasive paste and polish. And I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in watching it, and it'll be a lot more detailed than what I could have done here. So I've got a block in the chuck, and I'm going to use this shelving material. We'll get it mounted up and we'll remove that tenon. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'll start out with a 1/2-inch bowl gouge, and we're doing about 600 RPM. I'm going to switch to the little spindle detail gouge and see if we can get that nub off. I'm going to slow it down. I think it's going to cut off pretty easy actually. About 270 RPM. There we go. I know you've all seen Phil do this, and that's where I learned that little trick. I'm going to go ahead and get the bottom sanded and finished, and make sure you stick around because I want to talk a little bit about this sanding process that I did and why I like it. So I'll be back and we will do that. Well, here it is. It's all done, and I think it looks pretty nice. It finished 8.5 inches in diameter. It's 3 1/4 inches tall, and the base is 3 1/2 inches, and the walls are 1/4 inch. I used the Minwax water-based sanding sealer, a Minwax Polycrylic, and to get that really deep shine, I used Acks abrasive paste and polish. So I was going to tell you a little bit about that little sanding trick that I did. Well, it all started with sometimes the grain, you can feel the growth rings on sumac, and what I'll do is just use a coat of sanding sealer, which is common to do, sand it again, and it sort of disappears. Well, because I had these big cracks which went pretty much all the way through, I used CA on them. The cracks also radiated down into here, and there were just some on their own, and I thought, well, I've done this before. I'll use 320 grit and the sanding sealer. It makes a little slurry. It goes down in there and it actually does a nice job. But when it's all dry, I go over it again and sand it to 400, making sure I get down to bare wood and it just doesn't take anything out of what you filled. But if I get down to bare wood, I'll have the same colors that I started with. I won't have any tinting from that little paste. So that's why I do that. There's other ways you can patch this. If you have your favorite way, be sure to let me know how you're doing it. It's always nice to hear new things. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, do me a favor and click that like button. And while you're there, it would be great if you could share the video around. Those two things will really help my channel grow. Leave a comment. I read them all and I do my best to answer them all. Thanks to all my subscribers. And if you're not, please consider doing so. I do a mix of all types of turnings. Some are simple and some are complex. So let me know your favorite. Thanks again, and until the next time, see you later.